Oh yes. Sorry, we've got someone else there called
It's
Office.
Kylie here. I don't have, you don't have a visual of me, I don't think, but I can see you.
It's an unfair advantage, Kylie.
Yeah, well, technology is not my strong point.
That's okay, Kylie. Welcome. You're from down Moree way.
North Star, yes.
Oh right, okay. I actually
Yes,
drove
I
through there
have
a
to
few.
have a pass. I have to have a pass to go over the border to get the groceries.
I think I drove through there a while ago on the way down towards well towards north of Moree somewhere. I came through.
That's probably right. I hope we're looking better now than when you drove through. We are.
So it was
We've turned from a dust bowl into somewhere quite green, which is nice.
it was very grim when I went through there. I can tell you.
Mm, yeah, it was. It was grim.
Okay, well, there were a couple of others coming from Moree Way, so I'm not sure. I'll just give them one more minute, and then we'll kick off. But thank you for joining today, and the first of our Coach in Your Pocket estate and succession mastery sessions. So as long as you can all see the screen well, that's it's a good starting point.
And
So,
here, of course.
and you can hear us. Yes, hearing is a good thing. So look, I'll just start by introducing. I think you probably know who I am if you've come in. Sue, we've certainly met. Been over to see you in your home there in New Zealand. Juanita, do you want to give a quick background on how important you are in all this? You're more important. You're more knowledgeable than I am. So.
Sure. I'm a lawyer, Sue and Kylie. So I work with Murdoch Lawyers. We're based in Brisbane and Toowoomba. And I specialise in estates, so wills and estates, estate planning and estate administration and estate litigation. So that's all I do these days. And I do a lot of work with Mark, hence the invitation to join us today.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
Well, time's up, so let's kick off. First of all, welcome everybody today. I just wanted to start our series off, and I mean, talk about, I guess, our why is a good place to start. And the goal basically in regard to the rural succession solutions, estate succession planning and so on, is all about really saving families and helping families, I guess, to focus on issues such as intergenerational communication issues, conflict between the generations and so on. A lot of times there's no plan has been discussed between mum, dad and the kids, or even the grandparents and the parents, the children and the great-grandchildren. And for a lot of people, it's about not knowing where to start the process as well. So that's basically what we want to try and cover in these sessions. And as I said, part of the rural succession solution. But one of the things that's very important to me, and what we're talking about today, I thought we'd pick one of the topics to start with today, and that's really talking about your estate vision. And to me, it's very important in estate planning, succession planning, is that you start with your heart, not with hard facts and balance sheets and profit and loss and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's really important that the questions I like to ask people first are really about what's getting into their heart. What are the things that are important to them? And the power, I think, in this part of the process is in the questions that we ask. So, and Juanita, feel free to jump in as we go through these, but I'll just go around this wheel of 10 things that I think are really important in regard to your estate vision. The first is the breadth of what you want to do in regard to your planning. In other words, who do you need to consider? For most people, it's just their kids, maybe their grandchildren and so on as well. Other times there's grandparents, could be siblings, so on. Some people want to go as far as what do you do when you're giving money to someone else? What do you call that? Benevolence and so on.
Charities. I've seen people leave things to their pets.
Yes, I haven't yet, fortunately. So, but I know that does happen. So, So I think it's very important the first part of the conversation to say, okay, who are the key people that you want to start with, and where do we go from there? The next thing is fairness, and this is something which is really paramount, and certainly in regard to conversations is you don't have to be equal to be fair. And this happens especially in rural areas where, you know, you have situations where you might have 2, 3, 4 kids or whatever. One of the kids is on the farm, let's say, girl or boy, it doesn't really matter these days. There's a lot of women wanting to be on the farms as well. And if one person's sort of working there for years on the farm and the other kids are away doing something else, as I often say, backpacking around Europe, giving everyone a third or a quarter share of an estate is not fair, is it? So, you know, you've got to look at ways, and certainly in working with Juanita and Tom, we have a tool we use which really helps work out what's fair rather than what's equal. Has anyone got any thoughts or comments just on that topic?
I find that another example where that will happen is where we have clients that are older and have closer relationships with older children perhaps, or there's a particular child that's very involved in their lives and assists them where they might be estranged with another one. So that's another sort of example where fair doesn't always equal in those scenarios.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mixed families and so on, obviously a big part of that. The third issue is sufficiency.
Sorry, Mark. Could I just ask a question on that fair versus equal? Is there a formula that's often used that's fairly standard for sort of years of service, if you like, versus no input on the farm?
Look, you can have accountants do up very technical calculations to come to an answer to that one, Kylie. A lot of times it really depends. I mean, it depends on the capability of the size of the estate sometimes too. Like if you've got one farm, you know, you can't necessarily hamstring the person that stays on the farm to be paying out forever other kids that haven't chose to come on the farm. So it really depends on, I guess, the size of the pool. There's a lot of variables, and normally that's part of a deeper conversation where you look at maybe off-farm assets you might have as well. But I guess, and I don't know what your thoughts are, Juanita, but I'm not suggesting there's a hard and fast formula on number of years. I think sometimes you've got to, because also if you give some children a set dollar amount, the person that's getting the farm is also getting the risk and debt and so on as well. And so
that's right. Yeah, I don't think there's the answer is no. There isn't any standard formula that we regularly use, and there's no one size fits all. And as you said, Mark, it depends on what's in the estate, how much is in the estate, how many beneficiaries. So there's just a lot of different revolving wheels that might affect that.
Does that answer the question, Kylie?
Thank you. Yes, yes. It would be much easier if there were a rule of thumb, though, wouldn't it?
Well, it really is just one of those. It depends, and it really does depend on a lot of issues.
Yeah, no, fair answer.
Okay, and welcome, Leah and Julie. You can hear us, okay? Okay, special. Leah's got her audio off. Special requirements. Do you have? There might be children with special needs and so on. So, do you have beneficiaries who, have special needs or the specific outcomes that they're after? And sometimes you need to take those into account. Preservation, and that's different to protection. Preservation is very much about, have you got a business that it's really important to you that's maintained, or there's certain assets that you'd want to make sure are preserved. So that children, for example, could live off an income stream rather than the asset be sold and sort of the wealth divested, so to speak. Sometimes, for whatever reason, people may have something that's been in the family for a long time, and it's very important for them that asset is preserved. So, and as I say, this wheel is all about having the conversation, because having this first makes the rest of it easy. If you know what the answers to these questions are, it certainly makes everything else easy.
I think that those type of assets can be, we can be talking about something like land, a large asset that you want to hold down through a generation, but it can also be sentimental things. So it's not always things that are of high monetary value that are important. Often the sentimental things that are important to families are also top of mind.
Could be someone's wedding diamond ring, for example.
Absolutely.
Now, protection. This is probably one of the most powerful parts of the whole 10 questions here, is what protection are required for specific family or assets. And here what we're really getting into is conversations around failed marriages, bankruptcy, early death of a child, and so on, when a child dies before parents and so on. If you're looking at dividing up an estate between family members, what levels of protection do you want to put around that? Because you can get very good protection these days around assets for effectively what's called bloodline purposes, I guess. And certainly people are more and more concerned with divorce rates roughly being at 50%. If you've got 4 kids, I mean, there's a chance that 2 of your kids are going to get divorced. So you don't want to be leaving a whole lot of wealth or prosperity to the next generation if that's going to end up being divested into paying out failed marriages and so on. And Juanita, this is where you guys really earn your keep in this area, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, the key things are, as you said, bloodline. If you want to keep your wealth in your own family bloodline, and sometimes it can happen not even by a separation, for example, but if a child has their own family and passes away early unexpectedly, then quite rightly their partner may remarry down the track, and then you have a blended family situation, and your estate may be sort of going off sideways a little bit. So it can be, just events of life examples like that, as well as marriage separations, insolvencies, even mismanagement. Sometimes you have a beneficiary that you just might not feel can manage that money for whatever reason. They might have issues of their own or just be bad at managing money. So these are the things that we can assist with by putting the structures in place.
Yeah, sometimes it's referred to the black sheep in the family. People may have gambling addictions, alcohol, drug addictions, and so on. And you need to create some protection around certain assets to make sure that the wealth that you leave can be managed and protected for the next generation and the generation after that. Any questions in regard to these so far? Okay. Business outcomes. So this is an area where I ask people about what are they looking at from the point of view of succession arrangements with their family, with other business partners, and so on. What are the because this seems to be the one that people really get stuck on the most in regard to having conversations around what happens for succession, and not everyone has the same amount of farms as they do have children. Sometimes we get lucky there, and they do, but I mean, it's also the fact that most parents and certainly grandparents have no idea in regard to how to start the conversation in regard to succession arrangements, and we tend to get stuck all the time because the older generations don't know how to start the conversation, and the young generations kind of get caught up in the area that they don't want to seem like they're being presumptuous or lacking gratitude, and so they don't have the conversation with the parents or the grandparents as well. So there's this sort of silence of the land, I call it sometimes, is where nobody talks to each other, and what tends to happen from that is that real issues arise out of communication problems, and that's where the conflict starts. Parents not having a plan or not communicating the plan can cause conflicts. The kids, the next generation, don't know whether there's an opportunity for them or not, and they're sort of sitting there in this void, not knowing whether to go and get a job somewhere else or whether they're going to have an opportunity back on the land, and so on. So there's some very big questions need to be asked and need to be addressed in regard to business outcomes and succession arrangements, and it's an important part of the vision of your estate, and us being able to help you think through those issues so that you're really clear, and we can then, as we go along, have clarity when we're getting to the point where we're having conversations with the children. We understand what you're trying to achieve and find a way to communicate to keep everybody happy. Juanita?
Yeah, I think that was one of the points I thought was important today, the communication side of things. It's often, it's not done, or it's just really difficult. And so, you know, we've seen many occasions, Mark, where you've weaved your magic there between the generations, and just having that conversation where possible is really valuable, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So anyway, feel free to ask questions as we're going through these. Kylie, Leah, Julie, if you want to ask a question as we go along, please feel free to do so.
And it's also, Mark, I was just thinking then, it's not only between the generations, it might also be having, you know, communicating to those close people that you trust, that you would want to assist your family or your children if you were to pass away, and help with that transition. So there's, you know, a number of factors at play there as far as communication goes.
Absolutely. No other questions? Okay, and okay, the next one is having a consultative board. It's what I call a tactical team in our process. Mentors required for business advice. So I guess what we look at here is, I guess I'm always a great one for looking at the worst case scenarios, because I've seen it happen so often. And you know, we can look at life through rose-coloured glasses, or you can look at what actually happens. And you know, a lot of times, if mum and dad actually go together and hadn't made it home last night, sometimes kids can be really stuck if they're not old enough, or they haven't had enough experience, they haven't been around long enough in regard to know how to make some of the big decisions. And in many cases, we help people by saying, okay, well, who would be like the board of advice, so to speak, for the kids or the next generation coming through? Who would be the people that you'd want for them to lean on? And maybe in some cases, depending on the maturity of your children, they would be the ones that maybe would be tasked with the big decisions until your children reached a certain age or a certain maturity level where you'd feel it was safe for them to then take over the running of the business. So I think it's very important for you to think about who those people would be, and also think about the dynamics, you know, just thinking about someone I've been talking to recently, think about the dynamics between the children and make sure your consultative board is appropriate and will get on with all the kids that may be involved in the estate moving forward. No more thoughts on that? Okay. Administrators. To me, there's a difference between administrators and the consultative board. The consultative board are really people you'd engage that had a good business nous, I guess is the best way to say it. The administrators are the people you'd want to manage. They're like the executors, effectively, of your estate. So, you know, it's interesting, the number of times when I first meet people and I say, you know, who are the executors of your current will, and they go, oh, you know, I don't know. They're not friends with them anymore. I'm not saying they've all passed away, but you know, as you go through life, the people that you trust can change from time to time. So it's important to think about who are the people that you'd want to be administrators of your estate. And the only comments I make there is, it's just a couple of points for me, Juanita, before you can take over here, is always have more than one, always have at least two executors of your estate. And the other one is, if you're going to have one family member, have them all. Don't ever just put one person in as an executor of your estate. It's just going to cause problems with the others. And if all your kids working together aren't going to make a good match as executors of your estate, then have at least two people who are outside. The only other thing is always have, especially if you've got younger children, always have someone who's good from a financial point of view and has a good business sense. And always have someone who's very empathetic, has a good heart for and an understanding of your family, and are empathetic to the needs of your family and so on.
Yeah, I guess I'll probably elaborate on what their main jobs are here, because a lot of people don't exactly know what your administrator or your executor does. And if you have a will, we're talking about the executor here. They basically have a three-step process. So they identify your assets, they identify your liabilities and collect them and pay them. And then whatever's left over, they distribute per your wishes in your will. So that's, a very basic three-step process. So it needs to be person or persons who you are comfortable with and confident in to do that. And as Mark said, there can be a number of combinations. So you can have one or more people. They have to act jointly. If there's more than one, they can't be a majority. And if there's one, it's always good to have a backup. And, for example, I might appoint my husband and then appoint my mum as backup. So that just allows for, if something was to happen to your first choice, you've got a backup there in your will and you don't need to do one.
Very good. Any questions so far? Okay, the final one is...
covering all the questions, Mark. We're doing really well.
We must be saying so much that we're answering them all already. I'm not sure. You can, if you wanted to, by the way, you can chat and ask questions, I think, in Zoom.
Yep. While they're on top of your mind, you can type them in the chat. Yep.
Yeah, can you see those, Vanita?
Yep, I can. Yep.
For some reason, with a full screen, I can't. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so the final one, number 10, is routine revision. Now, and I guess the reason I put this down is I need to ask people up front and say, is this, if you want to sit down and do your estate planning, is this just a transaction? Is this something like you've got the urge to come and do it now, and you sort of think if you do it now, it'll be set for the rest of your life? Or is this something you see as relational? Because, I mean, the truth is, the number of people I see and I say, okay, how long is it since you last did your will? And look, 99 times out of 100, it's 10 years, it's 15. People will say, oh, it must be at least 10 years ago, and it's usually 20. So, it's, which is sad, really, that there's never been any follow-up for people in their past in regard to keeping this up to date. But I mean, as far as my point of view is that things change all the time. I mean, tax laws and legal opportunities and so on change from time to time as well. So, I mean, apart from the fact that you're going to have children, the children are going to get married, you're going to buy stuff, you're going to sell stuff and so on, I think it's really, really important to make sure that you see your estate planning, your succession planning as something that you need to review every year to take care of, and that whilst, and that's why people say, I'll wait till a certain time and then I'll do all this stuff. It's like that time never comes, because, you wait till this period in time and then sure as eggs, 2 years later, something else major will happen in your life. So I think you need to look at your succession planning, your estate planning as something that you do review regularly. I know with people that we've done work with 3-4 years ago, and I keep in contact with my clients every year, but 3-4 years ago, we've done work with people, and laws changed in regard to the levels of protection you could put in testamentary trust, for example, in Australia. So, we've gone back and updated a number of clients where that was appropriate. So I just think it's really important to make sure you keep this up to date all the time.
And review doesn't necessarily mean change. So no. I think it is reviewing it regularly every few years at least, or if an event in your life happens like a marriage, a separation, a purchase or a sale of a business or a property, or your kids have grown, or anything of the such, retirement. But it may well be that nothing needs changing, but it's important to just do that review.
Yep, absolutely. So look, I'll just go through, and this is the form that we use with people to help them go through this. And basically, just as some examples, that's just an example I use in workshops and to show people, who do you want, the breadth, the number of people, what's fair. They want the son Tim to have an opportunity with the farm, split everything else equally with the girls, etc. So to me, there's a great little thought process that you might want to go through before you do your estate and succession planning review, so that you're starting at the right place. I see so many times with people when they're talking to their accountants and solicitors, they start with the balance sheet, they start with the profit and loss, and they say, okay, well, here's what we've got and here's what we owe, and like, okay, how do we split that up? And it's just it's the upside down approach to it. And the right way to do this is to basically go in and just say, okay, tell me what's in your heart first. Think about how much you love and you care for your kids and so on, and then answer these questions. And this makes it so much easier for myself and your lawyer then to really package something together that's appropriate for you.
Yeah, I'll often ask when a client comes to see me, one of the first questions I will ask is, tell me in your own words where you want to get to, or what do you want, what are your wishes? Because I'm not expecting them to know legal words or legal drafting or how we put that in place. But if you can tell me that in your own words, I can do that for you. So this is a really good, I think, thought process to be able to articulate that in your own words. What are your wishes?
That's right. Yeah, better to have the non-legal conversation first, and then we can work out the big words we need to use to fix the problem, so to speak. So look, I'll just leave it open. This is all part of our family custodian blueprint. For those that want more information, you can just there's a link down the bottom here if you want to write that down. The familycustodianblueprint.com. This is what we do as part of that process. But look, I'd like to just hand over any questions, take this opportunity now for any questions that anyone may have before we finish off. We've just got 4 or 5 minutes left. So anyone have any questions for us?
I think one thing, Mark, I thought I would mention is and we were speaking recently about, and we were just speaking before about communication, and often I find that some clients are hesitant in getting their accountants or their marks or their lawyers together to have a chat because the immediate thing they think of is, oh, it's going to cost so much money. But I find that when everyone's on the same page and communicating with the relevant advisors, it really makes the process much more efficient and gets a better result, I think. So I would like to, sort of pass that message on, that sort of not having that approach that it's if I get these guys together, it's going to be crazy and expensive. It's actually a really good way to get you. It's like your team, to get your whole team on board and get things happening more efficiently, I think.
Sure. And I guess that's where my role comes in as a facilitator. I always have a no-cost first meeting with people who want to have a chat about this and go through a few questions to help, I guess, create some clarity and to help a new person effectively work out how they're going to communicate this with their friends, with their family and so on. And my role, I guess, is to work out when to bring in the accountant, when to bring in the solicitor and financial advisor and so on. So I'm a bit like the ringmaster in some ways, but as I say,
does that make me the clown?
Yeah, I can be a clown too, very much, and that's an easy, it's a very easy role for me today. Yes.
Mark, Sue's just put a comment in the chat. If you can't see that, can you put the blueprint URL in the group chat, please, at all?
Oh yes, okay. I will stop sharing, and I'll just go back. No, I can't do it. The family, hold on. Family. Let me just go into. Why am I not seeing the chat? Oh, chat, here we go. Yes. HTTP. Oops, the family. It's a big word, custodian. I'm not sure I spelled it right, but I hope that's right. Familycustodianblueprint.com. Yeah, and that really just shows that they're the tools that we're going through, and at the moment, look, as I think you'll find most business people these days are trying to give away some some free stuff and some value, I guess, during scary times to help people get all this stuff sorted. And what we've done is make all our tools available for nothing for 30 days if you want to go ahead with that, and that'll give you access to all our stuff for 30 days. But we hope you'll come back next week, and we'll gradually go through all these sorts of topics and all the tools and capabilities that we use. And feel free to come along with other questions for our subsequent sessions. Any questions you have. The reason you come along with questions is because Juanita can answer them. She's the clever one.
Things you can do in isolation.
That's right. That's right. And congratulations on all of you for getting Zoom set up today. Well done. Okay. Any closing questions before we end off? Sue, anything? Seeing it's late at night for you over there. Any questions you have?
Yeah, I was actually only going to say I didn't believe how valuable it would be meeting with you and the lawyer and the accountant with us, but it has been hugely valuable. Yeah, hugely valuable. Yeah, just refined ideas and things. I just didn't realise I was going to get so much out of it, to be honest.
Oh, thanks.
So
thanks.
Yeah.
No, that's good. No, it was good to come over and see you in New Zealand. I always like to do that first, come over, and the timing was impeccable, wasn't it? I managed to come over and see you all and meet all your kids and go through the family.
That's so right. That was very impressive, Mark. You were pushy, but it was impressive.
Thank you. But we got it all done, and then the virus came along, and so lucky we got in and did it when we did.
Yep, exactly. So are we supposed to keep ticking away at that those worksheets that you sent out? Oh, good. I'm allowed to carry on now, am I?
Yep, you can carry on now. You've got plenty of time now. You can do it.
You're right. Okay, cool.
That's fine.
Thank you. Yep.
No, thanks, Sue. Any other questions before we go?
Mark, it's Leah.
Mark, it's Tony here. I just had a quick one.
Hi, Leah.
I was... Leah,
Nice to
I'll
have
let
you.
you go.
Oh, it's okay. Oh, okay. No problem. Mark, I just wanted to say thanks for, I guess, firstly, putting this all together. I think this is a great idea for people just to get an understanding of, what, all of this is really. And I think, no doubt, as time goes on, I think you'll probably find more questions will come out. I probably certainly will anyway.
Yeah.
But also, for anyone, you mentioned that there might have been a recording of this, because some of the things that are on here, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to go over again just to reiterate what's been said today. And plus, there might be other people that people do know that could probably benefit from seeing this for the first time, and then, they could probably join in for the next one. Because I know that there has been a few people having some issues getting on Zoom, and that's maybe why they haven't been able to get on today.
Okay, no, that's fine. Look, the only thing is, anyone from a privacy point of view, if we did put this on Facebook or some resource, is anyone concerned from a privacy point of view about your names being on the screen?
No, I'm fine with that.
If so, please speak up, and we'll get a paintbrush out and try and paint over them.
Mark, we might even be able to send the recording link to the participants, and then maybe if there's anyone that they would particularly want to share it with, they can do that rather than put it out to the world.
Yeah, look, that's fine. I don't have anyone's email addresses or whatever, so I can send this to Leah, and Leah, maybe if you feel that anyone wants it and they ask you, they can get it from you. How about we do it that way?
Yeah, I'll see what I can work out in that way. I'll have to sort of, I'll make sure that, all permissions and everything like that, but we'll just see how we go. But would be, if there's another medium that you've got a link to that we can give people to find out more than, other than the URL, that would be good. But it's just a shame everyone can't get on.
One of the interesting things is, gradually, bit by bit, people are going to get better at hooking into things like Zoom and other chats, and it's going to be the way that we communicate I guess moving into the future, and you know, we're going to be like this. Hopefully not as bad as the Kiwis, sir, but we're going to be communicating this way a lot more into the future. And I guess, and the thing is, as Leah, as you'd know, once once you set up Zoom, it's then quite easy to continue to utilise.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's not, once you're on there, you're on, and it's yeah, I've been consistently using Zoom every day for the last 2 weeks, so yeah, it'll be good for everybody.
No, that's right. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining us today. We're doing this at the moment, and this subject to demand, we're doing it every fortnight. If you'd like it more often than that, then certainly let us know. I've just got a message here. Yep. I have a couple of people I think may be interested in your estate planning. I would love to share it instead of just talking about it. Yep. Okay.
Okay. So does that mean the next one's going to be on the 22nd?
Yes.
Right.
Maybe.
Okay.
What's today first?
It's the 8th.
Yes.
2 weeks
There
out.
you go. Your maths is very good. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for coming along today, and look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Vanita.
Thanks,
Take care.
Vanessa. Thanks, Leah.
Thanks, guys.